And now, Lifestyles Unlimited presents the Real Estate Investor Radio Show. Over the next hour, we unfold your map to financial freedom. You'll learn how to retire through investing in single-family and multifamily real estate. You'll learn how to create cash flow and build wealth so you can have the time and money to live the lifestyle you want.
Welcome to the show. My name is Al Gordon, and as always, we're working on your financial freedom. That's right, I'm using the word again. I can't even say it correctly. One of these days, I'm going to go to enunciation school, and they're going to teach me how to say the weird word. You see, I'm not even sure that came out correctly, but that's not why we're here. The reason we are here is because we want to hear what Leland has to say. Now, Leland is a Lifestyles Unlimited member. He's been a member since 2017, basically as long as I've been a member, and we both went down separate paths. We continued down different journeys in our lives. I mean, I came out of the military, tried to retire, and I failed. Leland, well, he took a completely different route. He didn't do the military route. He did something very different. We'll find out exactly what that is. But more importantly, the last time I had Leland on the show, he had a goal that he shared with us, and he said that he was looking to get himself retired. He was getting danger close to becoming retired, and he and his wife Shannon had just purchased a 24-unit apartment community. They owned it all by themselves. They didn't have any other Lifestyles Unlimited members investing into this asset, and it was this particular asset that was supposed to get Leland retired. So what we're going to do now is we're going to bring Leland onto the show because I've got to ask him a huge question. Leland, welcome to the show. How are you today, my friend?
Doing pretty good. It's been an interesting 24 hours, but I'm doing good.
Well, I've been dying to ask you this very personal question. Is it okay if I ask you a very personal question?
I'm ready.
Okay. Where are you at in your retirement plan? Last time we talked, you were getting danger close to retirement. I think you and Shannon projected that it might have gotten done sometime in 2023. Well, we're in 2023 now. Where are you at in relation to your retirement plan?
As of yesterday, I put in my 2 weeks notice. So by the April 1st, I should be 100% dependent on real estate.
Wait a minute. You know, April 1st is April Fool's Day. Are you sure you're not pulling a fast one on us?
I promise you I'm not. It is absolutely the truth. And like I said, it's been an interesting 24 hours in the conversations that me and my wife have had to have. And all good, but just it's kind of weird having them. And, when you're talking about, hey, I'm going to quit my job so I can focus on this real estate thing. And, that's what we're going to make money on.
Now, just to throw some background out so everybody understands, who you are and where you came from. You're a graduate at the University of North Texas. You spent some time in commercial real estate. Then you moved into the audiovisual world doing audio and electrical work. And then I believe you went on to do some other things involving real estate. Can you give us a little bit of that background? And then I've got another personal question to ask.
Sure. So I'll kind of go the long route and try and make it quick. Right out of college from UNT, went into commercial real estate as a tenant rep, which means I would go and find office spaces for companies to run their business out of. Then from there, I went into the electrical field and did that for about 5 to 7 years. Smart home automation, hanging media rooms, things like that. And then from there, what will be my previous job, but still 2 weeks to go. Basically a lighting rep. So but essentially I look at plans for office space and they give me the lights and what they want in there. And I put the quote and everything together and then help them get it from order to on site. While all that was going on, we did, pursue single family. Grand total, we purchased 4 properties. We are currently down to 1. And now we have the 24 unit, apartment community that we own as an IRO, and that's kind of where we sit today with, what we have going on right now.
Okay, so that 24-unit apartment community that you guys had just bought last time we talked, tell me about that particular asset. Was this more of a yield play? Was it more of a value play? Was it somewhere in the middle? Give us the salient details.
Sure. So, yeah, the first deal, that I'm ever going to do on my own in any sort of multifamily period it was presented as, hey, it's renovated, good to go. So we were anticipating a yield play, which means essentially take over operations and not have to do too much work to it. Everything's in pretty good shape. And basically, as the leases expire, just crank them up to market rent and keep rolling. Once I got on site, the second unit that I walked into, there's a gaping hole, and one of the tenants goes, yeah, it only rains, or once it rains after 2 days, then it starts to leak. And that was my introduction into multifamily, and I have not looked back since, believe it or not.
So what has that 24-unit apartment community done for you? I mean, obviously it's helped you replace your income, but can you give us an idea of how much income that it took that you needed in order to replace that income?
Sure. I'm an open book, and, this is very realistic. Me and my wife are very conservative in how we do things, and I only make take-home pay $48,000 a year. So that was the goal is, okay, we need to make at least $50,000. That way I can cover my insurance and everything, and, that way we've got just a little bit of wiggle room. But when we're all said and done and we bring all the market, all the units up to market rent, we should actually be bringing in close to $100,000 a year in cash flow, and the property would have almost doubled in value.
But you were owning and operating this 24-unit apartment community concurrently with working in a full-time job, correct?
Yes, and I do have third-party management, which does allow that to happen. And even better than that, it's not even in the state of Texas.
Oh, okay. So where is the property at?
It's in Kingsport, Tennessee.
You're living where you want, but you bought the asset where it makes sense.
Yes, and that was our whole intention is, we don't want to be the physical property manager because we do want to buy our time back, specifically with the IRO stuff. And, that was the whole intention of this is what does it matter if it's in Texas or anywhere, as long as the numbers make sense and I'm going to have property management anyway, I don't have to limit myself to just one geographical area. And so that really opened up our horizons.
So what did you do to let people know that you were interested in property outside of the great state of Texas?
Thankfully, through Lifestyles, we have a broker out there, and I kept seeing some of the information that she was broadcasting. And it's been, I didn't believe it at first. I just didn't. And so then I had a literal 3-hour conversation with her the first time that we talked. And I was like, explain Tennessee to me, because she used to live here in the Dallas area, so she can understand and give me, pros and cons and contrast of what something in Dallas is like relative to here to out there in Tennessee. So that was a huge benefit. And once I got comfortable with it, we just kind of talked of where I was at financially and what we could do financially and what we were comfortable with, and it just kind of all came together.
So what was it about this 24 unit that really just caught your eye and made you look at Shannon and go, this is it. This is the deal for us? So
it's funny. Every deal that we have ever bought, my wife has actually been the driving push behind it. I do all the numbers and I do all that, but I'm always hemming and hawing. Semi-type B to where it's like, man, if I don't make a move, I'm not going to be wrong. And she's the one who actually says either go to it or quit talking about it. And so thankfully, she knows I go through every single number possible. And by the end, usually what happens is she goes, okay, you told me all this. Where's your issue with it? And by then I'm like, well, I guess I don't. I guess we need to go buy it then. And that's typically 9 times out of 10. That's what actually makes us say, okay, this is the one we're going for.
So this thing was supposed to be a yield play, meaning it was supposed to be already in good shape. You found out immediately that it wasn't in good shape, that it was leaning more towards the value side of the equation, meaning you had to put some physical reconstruction back into the property. How many units of the 24 did you have to renovate in order to get this property up and running for you?
So I would say about, let's see, I've got, I think 10 left, 11 left on my list, so about half of them.
Okay, so you're about halfway through.
The best part is when we would increase whenever the leases came up, sometimes we didn't even have to touch it and literally just bring the market rents up without putting a bunch of money into it. So that helped out a lot.
Now, how were you able to do that without fixing the unit up?
Because there were some that were in decent shape and didn't need a lot of deferred maintenance done. And if there was, as soon as we asked for the higher rent, they were like, okay, that's not a problem, but I want to get X, Y, and Z fixed. And it was, hey, this little thing is leaking here, or hey, this thing's out of adjustment here. Super, super minor stuff. So that was a huge benefit to where I was able to not have to spend all of the, rehab dollars and still get the rent increase.
So you still have about half the units you intend to develop or recondition and bring up to your standard. Is that the case, or are you okay with where those remaining 11 units are at?
So we're kind of swinging for the fences right now, and I actually just told my property manager yesterday, instead of doing 3 increases for April, we're going to do 6. So it's, we're doing double now, but that's because we're kind of expediting because I am going to be away from my job. And so we just want to kind of expedite the process of bringing everything up so that way we can have a better financial situation on the back end.
So the neat thing in this property is it's providing you the income streams that you need in order to retire yourself, to step away from that job. It's actually producing, or is in the process of producing, twice as much as you were making at that old job. So you've got to be working 80 hours a week on this thing?
No. So the way it works, at least for me, and this is how I operate, is up front, before we even got into before we closed, I had very in-depth conversations with my property manager, and I told them exactly what I wanted the units to look like, even as far as paint codes. If it's XYZ is broken, do this, don't do that. So we have a very, very good game plan up front. Now, the day-to-day, though, since we've closed, we talk once a week and have about a 30 to 45-minute conversation, just, go everything that's going on, everything that's happening. But we also text 2 to 3 times throughout the week, just saying, hey, XYZ happened here. Do you want to do this or do you want to do this? Or, hey, this is going on in this unit. What do you want to do? We can do option A or option B.
Options. I love options. Hey, we're getting ready to go to a break, and when we come back, we're going to ask Leland about being a lead investor. Stick around.
Got questions? Call Lifestyles Unlimited at 855-497-4335. The Real Estate Investor Radio Show continues next.
Right now, we're coming upon a great opportunity. It's that time in which you're going to find that the marketplace is changing, and it is shifting to a buyer's market away from a seller's market. Number one, the brokers don't want you to know that. They're going to do everything they can do to keep you from believing the truth. Number two, the sellers don't want to believe it, although in the back of their minds they know it. Now, that doesn't mean everybody will crater for you, but some people are going to be in those situations where they have to negotiate for deals, and you've got to be there. Now, if you're not there, you won't get one.
Join us for the free online workshop, and we'll show you how to be in the right place at the right time in any market cycle. Register at lifestylesunlimitedworkshop.com. lifestylesunlimitedworkshop.com. That's lifestylesunlimitedworkshop.com.
Creating the lifestyle you've always wanted. You're hearing Lifestyles Unlimited's Real Estate Investor Radio Show.
Welcome back to the second half of the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. My name is Al Gordon. I'm joined by Leland, a Lifestyles Unlimited member for the past 5+ years, and together we are working on your financial freedom. We're doing so by getting inside the story that Leland has. Now, Leland has been investing over the past 5 years. What he has done has resulted in him not necessarily retiring from his job, because he put in his 2-week notice just the other day. So technically, he's still working, but he is so danger close to being out of that job, out of that employment, having 100% control of his life again. It's going to be amazing. As we went to break, I was kind of getting into the weeds with Leland, and I really just wanted to get an idea of how much time he's spending on his real estate. Now, keep in mind, he was working 40+ hours a week, and he was also balancing a 24-unit apartment community. So Leland, how much time literally per week were you spending on that asset?
I would say maybe collectively about 3 hours. But that's literally direct communication with somebody who has to do something at the property. And that's over the course of a week. That's either text or phone call or emails or getting quotes, things like that.
Now, when you first found this asset, did you get on a plane and go to Tennessee, or were you able to do everything through the phone and the internet?
A lot of it was pictures and internet up front. But once we did the actual inspection of the property, I did go out there and got to see it firsthand and do the, walk through every unit, except for one. We couldn't get into one of them for various reasons, but I saw all of them and I knew exactly what I was getting into, and it was very nerve-wracking. But now I'm like, man, I have no issues if I ever see that type of stuff again.
So it seemed like it was a scary situation to you because you'd never bought a 24-unit apartment community, had you?
Or a apartment community, period. Correct.
Or anyone at all. So this is your baby, your brand new addition to your family, if you will. You've had an opportunity to walk it. You've seen all the units except for one. You get back on a plane. You come back home to Texas. How many times have you been out there since?
One time, just one time since, and it's pretty interesting the emotions that I had the first time versus the second time. I still remember the first time I went out there, I flew in late on a Thursday night or Wednesday night, and I was like, what am I doing in the middle of a state I've never been to before, and I'm away from my wife and kid? It was a very surreal moment, and now I'm like, okay, this is what we're doing. It's way more exciting the second time.
So you made the decision to become a lead investor. Tell me what that involves.
Yeah, so you have to go through if you're doing it through Lifestyles, they do require that you have to go through the training. You have to get 100% on all the tests and quizzes that they present for the information and material. So that way you do understand what's involved, how things are supposed to be done. And that way everyone's kind of on a level playing field. And that, I knocked that out pretty quickly just because I had 16 hours of driving and I was able to do it on the road. But it probably took, if I had just sat down and done it, it would have taken me 2 weeks collectively. But it's very informational, and you kind of need to go through it 2 or 3 times just to really wrap your head around all the little nuances that it does take to be a lead.
So it's this lead training you feel gave you everything you needed in order to successfully become a lead investor and offer securities to people like me, a passive investor in Lifestyles Unlimited?
I'm not going to say it's going to give you everything. I, obviously new into doing it, so I have never been through an entire deal, so there's always something that you're going to learn. But as far as giving you the footprint and the blueprint, and then knowing who to ask, when to ask, what to ask, who needs to do what, yes, it very much gives you you could know absolutely nothing to where you almost you could run it. You would have no problem knowing who to go to get things done on time. So I feel very comfortable saying that. Yeah,
I was going to say, man, I just heard nothing but confidence coming out of your voice the entire time you were talking about it.
It's an adventure to say the least, but given what I've already done, and whenever I do get to go full cycle on one, I think it's going to be an incredible experience.
So why the jump from independent rental operator with a 24-unit apartment community into the lead investor environment? Why that decision-making process?
It's twofold. The first one would be just I ran out of money to go and buy another IRO by me and my wife. And number two was if I could do it, on my own, and I've already gotten my track record on it, I understand the fundamentals enough to where I have confidence of saying, hey, let's get a bunch of people together and we can go get something bigger and better that is just going to be a safer asset. And that way you have more knowledge that you can pull from. And, not only am I helping myself and my family, but I get to help other people also. And that's kind of where, but those two driving factors are what pushed us down that road.
So it's really giving you an ability to scale up on everything because now you're bringing other investors into the fold. You now have more money at your disposal. So you can really jump from, say, a 24-unit to, say, a 240-unit. Is that something that's part of your decision-making process?
It is. And obviously, though, I want to make sure I do things that I'm comfortable with. So I would have numerous conversations with mentors and consultants within Lifestyles to say, hey, here's what I've done, here's what I have, What would someone who has done that type of thing, what's the next logical step up? And, it's running 10 units is almost like running 20. So in my mind, I'd like 20 to 40 to, just keep growing that way. But it's really what are you comfortable with and how do you want to grow? But yes, I do like getting more units because if one goes down, you don't feel it as much. You lose 1 out of 50, you don't feel it as much as 1 on 10.
So as a lead investor, are you looking in areas outside of Texas like you did for your IRO, or are you looking to stay somewhere closer to where you live?
I'm looking in Texas and Tennessee. The main reason is that's just where I'm comfortable with. But to me, it is all about the numbers, period. If the numbers don't make sense in your backyard, it doesn't make sense. If the numbers make sense across the border, then they make sense. It's, at the end of the day, the numbers have to work, and if you know how to run the property, you know how to run the property, and then you just execute your game plan.
So you mentioned if the numbers make sense. I mean, what do you look for in a deal? Are you looking to capitalize on the cash flow? Are you looking to capitalize on the fact that you can force the equity up? You're trying to do a little of both. What is your investing strategy specifically?
Yeah, so regardless of, if I'm looking at it through my IRO hat or my lead hat, my box that I like is somewhere between 5 to 10% cash flow and somewhere between year 3 and year 5, if on a sale or refi, I want somewhere between a 70 to 100% return on my capital gains. That's kind of my box that I look for.
That's a pretty conservative approach. Where did you develop that approach?
It's funny. That is the number that I needed to get out of my job. And so if it worked on that one, I'm kind of rinse and repeat. If it works, and, if the wheel keeps going around and around and it's not flat, keep using it. So that's kind of my mentality right now.
And you have worked with different mentors. So walk me through the mentors that you worked with when you first became a member, and then walk me into how that may have migrated to maybe a different type of mentor as you moved on to becoming a lead investor.
Sure. So when we were very heavily into the single-family world, we had Lori and Rick out of the Dallas office just because that's where we're based. And what's funny is my wife gels very well with Lori, and I gel very well with Rick. We're just, my wife, she likes to talk and, go through the whole story of something. I, on the other hand, A plus A equals A squared, something like that. I'm very direct to the point. And so that, it can rub people the wrong way sometimes, but it's just, hey, we need to get something done. Let's get it done and move on down the road. And so you kind of have to make sure that you find the mentor that you work well with and understand your personality, especially because you are having very personal conversations, and they need to understand when you say something, they need to understand how you mean it. And specifically, because when you're talking about your life and what you're doing, it's very, very important. And so once we figured that out, that's who we gelled with, and it's been phenomenal. Then we started going into multifamily, and I actually connected with Alex out of the Dallas office, and he was been absolutely instrumental in this. And he was a very, very, very patient person while I was learning the spreadsheet, the MFQA. That's what we use to basically understand the numbers behind the apartments. And he was instrumental in me learning that. And then because I went outside of Texas, I had to use a national mentor, and I connected with Mark, who is based in Arizona, if I remember right. And we just talk and do email a lot. And it's, kind of the same thing. I gelled with him, and he's kind of laid back. He's very laid back, but I can just throw a lot of information at him, and he goes, okay, you rolled yourself out. This is what I gathered from that. Is this what you're really asking? So he can kind of decipher my run-ons and just say, this I'm pretty sure is what you're asking, and then we kind of narrow it down from there. So, yeah, I've been through quite a few of them, but every single one of them has been absolutely instrumental, and their wealth of knowledge is absolutely incredible. And, you feel kind of like the dumbest kid in the room, but that's a good thing because you know that you've got someone who is very intelligent and is going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And that to me is invaluable, and it's going to hurt your feelings sometimes, But you have to understand they're telling you because you need to make a business decision, not a seat of your pants decision.
So you're about ready to walk into a brand new lifestyle, a lifestyle without an employer. What does that look like for you?
I don't know, because I've tried not to think about it, because I'm trying to literally do my same routines, but just transition whatever I was spending time-wise on my W-2 over to the real estate, so that way, I don't become lazy. I'm not necessarily worried about it. It's just I've never had to fully depend on it like that, and I don't want to let my family down, so I have an extra motivation behind me to where I am excited about it, because now I get to take my kid to school. I get to pick her up from school. I actually get to eat with her in the mornings. Like that happened this morning. That was very cool to see her interactions. And, that's the stuff I'm looking forward to where it's like, yeah, I still have to put in the energy and effort, but now I get to see all those things I've been missing out on.
What's the timeline to get Shannon retired?
My goal, once I walk away in a million, my complete goal is to get her out of her job. So that means replacing her income. And that's going to be a little bit cheaper because she does make more than I do. But I definitely know how I'm going to do it, and I have no doubt that I'm going to be able to do it. It's just a matter of what's the safest and most effective way to get there.
And the neatest thing about it is once you get her to that place of retirement, if she decides she wants to keep working because she does love what she's doing, it's okay for her to do that, knowing that she has full control over the situation. And if she doesn't like what's going on with that particular organization, she can just step away. I mean, now that is power, is it not?
Oh, it absolutely is. And, she's been the champion for this whole thing, especially giving me the support on the bad days when we do get bad days on something. And she always brings me back around and says, okay, well, how do we fix it? And by then I'm like, okay, now I can't wait till tomorrow so I can tell them this is how we're going to get over this hurdle. And, especially with her job, it's kind of like, okay, my hurdle is how do I get her out of her job? But thankfully I know how to do it now. So it's I'm excited that I can be the one to be like, hey, walk away. Walk away if you want. You don't need it if she's ever in that position. But like I said, she loves what she does.
How's the lifestyle looking for you? I mean, what are the things that you're looking forward to accomplishing that you haven't really been able to do in your working life?
So that's very interesting. It all kind of comes full circle at the same time. We sold our house, our very first house that we bought as a married couple. We're living in a duplex that my in-laws own. And by the grace of God, they gave us rent-free for a year. But we got to start paying. It's been a year. And we are actually now starting to look at our next 20-year home that we get to raise our child in now and actually create the home that we don't have to sell anymore because we'll be financially set to where it's like, hey, we could pay this thing off next week if we wanted to in a few years, not right now. But that's kind of how we view it. So it's like, no, we're making those big life decisions that, okay, we're going to be the next 20 years, we're going to be set. And then I've always wanted a ranch. My granddad had one, and he had to sell it. And so we have aspirations for a ranch someday. And it's now it's not a matter of if, but more of a question of when.
So how has your net worth been affected by all this real estate investing?
The best way to say it is since we've been married till today, just because I've had to keep my finances up to date, we have tripled our.
Did you say tripled?
Tripled 3 times.
Tripled. Wow, that's a great way to end the show, I'll tell you. Hey, Leland, I want to thank you for being on the show. I know people learned a lot from you, and for those of you wanting to get started, go to lifestylesunlimited.com.
The information and opinions you hear on the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show are those of the hosts, guests, and callers. The Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show is for entertainment purposes only. Please consult a professional regarding your personal investment needs. Nothing presented constitutes an endorsement, recommendation, offer, or solicitation to buy or sell any product or security.